Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have you join us today for our first Money Talks event. I would just like to start this off with just a question of, are you someone that has noticed, the spending habits costing you more than you realize? And what I'm specifically talking about today is really the clutter we end up in our homes with. Clutter is not just about a messy home. It's really about the fact that it drains our wallet and affects our mindset and takes a toll on just your peace of mind. And today we're really going to talk about that. I'm so excited about the guests that I have with me today. But before we get started, it's really going to be about uncovering what are the hidden costs behind the clutter and really how do we take control of that in our space, our finances, and our lives. My name is Cindy, and I am a money confidence coach, and I love being able to help women to gain clarity and control over their finances so they can more confidently reach their financial goals. And I really have firsthand experience of just really understanding what it means to declutter your life. It is like if it was a spirit animal, it would be my spirit animal because I love decluttering. So I'm super excited about this conversation today, and I'm so thrilled to have Trish John join me. Trish is an incredible professional organizer, and she is a feng shui consultant. She's had many years of experience of helping people not only to declutter their homes, but also helping to improve their well-being through the power of organization. She has been so gracious to want to share her insights of what it means to master these physical spaces and to impact your habits and how you look at your clutter, and also helping us to get a little more insight of how to start that decluttering process and hopefully help you to transition to more peace of mind. So welcome, Trish.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm so happy to be here and to share my experience and my knowledge with all of your people in your group.
Awesome. So I would love to get started with just having you share a little bit about your journey. What led you to becoming a professional organizer and feng shui consultant? And just how did you find that connection also with clutter and your mindset and things like that? What kind of led you down that path? I'd love to hear that story.
Okay, well, I mean, I was just that kid that I used to drive my mother crazy because I would reorganize her home, our home, I guess, especially her kitchen. So, my mom loved to cook. And she's organized. I mean, and that's obviously where I learned it from my mom and my dad. But she just, because she was so creative in her cooking, she just kind of didn't have any rhyme and reason to some things. So I would go in after, a weekend of her cooking and prepping for the week, and I'd go in and reorganize things. Again, it drove her crazy. I won't lie. And when people were over, I would be reorganizing furniture and putting people over here and bringing coats over here. I just was that kid, and I just loved it. It was just so natural for me that it just became a way of life for me. And as I got older, I found out that you could have a career doing this. You could actually do this for other people and not drive them crazy like I did my family. People actually wanted you to come in their home and do it. So when I realized that, I started it, I guess, in my business was in 2008. So many years ago, I got into the profession of professional organizing. And then as years went on, I got interested more and more into the feng shui aspect. And they balance each other very well because feng shui is very much based on the decluttering of your home and your
Mm,
environment, because it does impact you in so many different ways, especially financially. So yeah, yeah.
wow. Yeah, I definitely am someone that gravitated towards organizing in general. Like I feel like it's just part of just me.
Right.
And do you find that people naturally gravitate toward that or naturally repel that?
Yes and yes. When I started professional organizing, I joined a course, of course, and learned the tips and tricks of it all. And there was a lot of people that were like me, always organized, always those people. But there were actually people that were never organized,
Mm,
finally got organized and realized they could actually help people that had the same problems that they did. So
mm,
it was kind of cool to see their way of looking at it compared to the way I looked at it. and it was very, very cool how we all brought it together, and our experiences really did make it a great course because we saw both ends of it. So we
Yeah.
a very disorganized person to a very organized person, and how we both saw how differently things were. And that was very, very interesting. And that was very helpful in my business. Yeah.
Mm, I love that. I think, even with what I do, I see both extremes of the sides of I'm either, extreme spender or I'm extreme saver. I tend to fall on the extreme saver side. And then, I've met plenty of people, but there's always commonalities, even though we may gravitate towards one side or the other. It's just always interesting to find the commonalities of things that we love to gravitate towards. So I'm sure that can be said for pretty much anything.
I
Um,
think so too. Yeah.
yeah, so I love that that helped you with some insights into what you do.
Yeah.
What do you think, when you've worked with some of your clients, what do you think becomes that hidden cost of that clutter that they find themselves in? We oftentimes talk about clutter as just, messy spaces, but it's so much more. It really has an impact
Yeah.
on our spending habits, our overall mental health, our financial health, and our mindset. So what are some of the things that you've noticed in working with people?
Well, it definitely, like you said, it affects us, not just our physical space, of course, but energetically, it affects you. It affects your finances because you're buying stuff that you don't need, or you think, well, it's on sale, and I could use a new XYZ, whatever it is, even though I don't really need it now, but I may need it. And that's a lot of it too, is that, well, it's at a thrift store and it's, a quarter of the price that I would find it at the other store. So I might as well get it because I'm here. But when we think that way, we clutter so much more than just our environment. We clutter our mind. We rob ourselves of living our life to the fullest because we get bogged down with the stuff, and the impact of it energetically is crazy, but the financial aspect of it is you drain your finances while you're draining your energy.
Yeah.
And that's the way you look at it. So when you're draining your financials, your bank account to get that thing that you really don't need, you're energetically draining yourself as well. Because everything is attached. Everything that we have in our home is attached to energy, is energy. So you have to think of it that way. Everything you bring into your home, no matter if it's from a, big box store to a convenience store to a secondhand shop, everything has energy. So when you're bringing that in, you're weighing yourself down on top of draining your finances by doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel that because I have had family and friends who find themselves unfortunately on this
Mm.
side of clutter and very heavy clutter. And I know that, it creates this sense of energy in your home. And for me, when I don't if I feel something is just piling up, like it puts a sense of uneasiness with me personally.
Right.
And so, I can only imagine, someone that struggles with, a massive amount of clutter, what that must feel like for them. And how do you think that people end up down that path? Have you seen patterns that, cause people to kind of lead down that path?
Well, I mean, usually if they're chronically disorganized, and have so much clutter that it's, to the point of being a hoarder,
Mhm.
that is usually mental health issues that are connected to that. Because the things that we have, I mean, anything that we have, like I said, energetically attracts to you. So if you were given this from, by your grandmother, say she gave you this,
Mhm.
energetically you can't let go of it because it reminds you of your grandmother.
Mhm.
And that really bogs us down. The sentimental clutter is a whole new topic and a big topic on its own.
Yeah.
And I spoke about it in my own group because it is such a big huge thing. But the ongoing thing that I see with clients that have a lot of clutter is that usually is there's usually a reason behind it. It's either they grew up in that environment where everything was very cluttered and very disorganized and just kind of no rhyme or reason to anything, no scheduling, no focus. Nothing was clear on how day to day. It was just let's get up, go, and do whatever we need to do to get through the day. And then you have people that are very organized, almost to the extreme of that, the OCD almost,
Mm,
where that is again a mental health issue, and they probably grew up with a very strict, this is the way things are done, that type of energy. So they're both unfortunately hard to live with, and then they grow up with that, they come to their own life, move out and do their own thing. They can't get past what they grew up with. So
yeah.
when I have clients that are like that, and a lot of my clients are like that, I try to get them to see that, okay, it's fine how you grew up, that there's no judgment of how you grew up either way. It doesn't really matter, we all grew up with things, but it's how you deal with your life today. That's what matters. So decluttering helps them see things clearer and see things um, on the other side, and making them realize, it is draining their energy, it is draining their finances, it emotionally drains them, it affects their mental health, it affects their physical health. More clients that I have had with as hoarders or just very disorganized and cluttered people always have health issues in one
Mm,
form or another. And it's sad to see that because it doesn't have to be that way. So when I go in, and I had a client years ago that she had from top to bottom constant problems with herself, and it was sad to see, but at the end of the day, when I helped her declutter and I had a team to come in because it was so bad, I worked with her for about 2 or 3 months. I can't remember, it was a couple of years ago. And her health, you could see the physical change as we
wow.
worked with her. She lost weight. Her husband lost weight. They started eating better. She stopped buying stuff just because she thought she may not have it, or didn't have it. And then once we decluttered her kitchen, she realized she had all this food,
Yeah.
and so much of it. So she started donating it to food banks because she had so much of it. So it changed her physically, mentally, emotionally. It just changed her and her husband. And her husband fought me on it. Like, he didn't want this. He did not want this. But he saw how happy it made his wife and the differences in their life. It was super powerful. It was amazing. She was an amazing client. They both were, actually, but me and her, we definitely bonded over it, and a lot of deep conversations, and I was very grateful to have her as a client. So yeah.
I love how you highlighted the not only the mental side of it, but also the physical side, because we can find ourselves just with more energy because we're feeling it more of a safe space at that point in time and feeling more at peace. And I think when we align different things with us that feel good, it really just starts to reshape how we interact in that space as well. So I think that's
Yeah,
always really
absolutely.
fascinating. And also talking about the fact that, a lot of these people, oftentimes it's not when, especially in marriages or partnerships, sometimes it's not just one yes you have to get in order to buy into something. And
Yes.
it can be tough. It can be tough to sell the other person that is resistant. What would you say is a way to open up that conversation with a partner who is resistant, but you know that the outcome will benefit you both?
Well, in this instance of this couple, because he really didn't want me there. He was never rude to me, but
Right.
he was always very, quick answers, left the room very quickly. I tried several times to talk to him, one on one. He didn't want anything to do with it, so I had to respect that because I wasn't there for him. I was there for her. She's the one that hired me and asked me to come into her home. So I guess it was about, because for the first month we worked 5 days a week because it was so to the extreme. It was like 3 bedroom home, from the top floor to the bottom floor to the garage full. Okay. So we worked a lot of hours and a lot of days in a row. So, but by the second week, he started seeing a difference because it
Mm,
wasn't just me doing it, right? It wasn't just me
yeah.
and her. Because I had several other organizers helping me, the quicker result he saw made him realize. So it was funny because as he saw the results and he saw his wife just feeling better. I mean, obviously 2 weeks didn't bring success to that level, but he
Right.
saw the difference in her. And then he approached me and said, okay, I get it. I get it now. And can you help me with my workshop? And I had to go back to do his workshop because that was not part of the plan, and
Right.
it was just as bad as the rest, right? It was probably to the level of the garage because he
Mm.
was a handyman and he loved to do stuff and kept every piece of wood that he probably ever had in all his life, right? 60 years old, and but I loved it. Like by the end, he was on track. He was in the game. He was helping. He was doing dump runs for us. He was all
Nice.
involved. And she even said to me, "You don't even know how much that has helped our marriage." And I'm like, "Yeah, because
Wow.
it is a couple. It's a partnership. No
Yeah.
matter where you're at in your marriage, it's a partnership. It should be a partnership. And things like clutter, if one is worse than the other or doesn't do it at all, and the other, it's very hard to live in an environment that you're not comfortable in. Even though he
Yeah.
wasn't uncomfortable, he didn't want to admit that.
Yeah, I think, for some people they do find solace in it because so for some people I think it does feel like a comfort level, but for
Yeah,
others it feels like
yeah,
chaos. My husband and I are actually polar opposites when it comes to things. I'm very much more organized and he's like keep the little piece of plastic he found for like 6 months and then I'm like throw it away.
I know.
Uh,
It's so funny, right?
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and I'm like, "You still haven't found a place for that piece of plastic, have you?" But we tease each other about it now because,
Yeah,
it's a process. It's a process to find that balance. But I do think there is something relatable in this scenario to, how couples handle money.
yeah,
There's oftentimes one that's a bit more of a saver, one that's a bit more of a spender, and trying to find the balance, between the two, and that can be very challenging. And sometimes it takes, like in this case, seeing evidence
right.
of how someone can transition and can transform to bring the other on board with the whole idea and the whole concept of, hey, this is working. This can be something for us to do and to do it together. So, I
Right.
definitely think
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's what it was. He needed to see the evidence. And
yeah,
most couples need to see the evidence before they jump on board. And
yeah,
I'd say probably 85 to 95% they jump on board.
yeah. I mean, I have seen that myself in what I do of,
Yes.
you sometimes it takes one to get started for the other to go, oh, okay. Okay, I'm starting to see the path because for some people, I think there's such a block of, well, that's not worked in the past, or, we've never gotten very far with this. So why are we going to do this now? So I think there is something to be said about, someone just saying, you know what, if you're not going to do this with me, I'm going to try and do it on my own. And all of a sudden it creeps in that they're like, ooh, okay, so I see what you're doing now.
Right.
And it starts to feel a little like FOMO. I don't wanna miss out. I wanna do this
Oh,
too and
true.
seeing it work for you. Not in the FOMO, like, we gotta go do that right now, but,
Right.
in the sense that, you wanna be party to it, you know? You wanna
Right.
be
Because
part
you're
of
a
the
couple.
experience.
You
Mhm.
want to, I mean, for a healthy marriage, you want to be on board with each other.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, I mean,
absolutely.
that's a huge part of being married,
Yeah,
is being on, follow not maybe exactly wanting to do the thing that your wife signed you up for, but at
yeah,
least being open to the idea of it, that it
yeah,
could make a difference, that could save you money, could save you time, could
yeah,
save you energy, could save you, you
yeah.
know? So yeah,
And I also look at it from the standpoint of how do we increase communication and decrease the arguments?
yes.
Because who wants to fight about that? Nobody. Nobody wants to fight about money. Let's have a conversation. Let's communicate about it. Let's not fight about the pile there. There's sometimes you got to pick your battles and sometimes you got to say, hey, we need to talk this through. But sometimes with those scenarios, it can be feeling so stressful that you just don't know how to navigate it. And that's where people like you and I come in to
Right.
help navigate that
Yeah.
space
And
because they need the extra support.
they do. And I think sometimes I mean, I know working with clients in any aspect of my business, it's always, they like to see, like I said, they like to see the evidence, but they like to see, okay, I'm going to do it myself and I'm going to just do it the way I want to do it. And then when the other partner says, oh, yeah, like that makes sense, or yeah, you know what, she's right. And you just you have to trust the process that they'll see the other side of it. It
Yeah,
may take a little bit, and dealing with your finances is a huge thing in relationships. Um, but at the end of the day, they usually it either brings you together or it separates you. And
it's
if
true.
that's going to separate you, then maybe it needs to just be done, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
to me, if you can work together as a team, that's the best situation,
absolutely.
especially when it comes to your finances. It should be that way anyway. Even if you have separate bank accounts, you should still be on the same page financially, right?
100%. I can't stress that enough, how important it is to have transparency. No matter if you decide to keep everything separate or everything together, there has to be transparency in the
Right.
communication. And no matter what level you are in or what you are discussing in your marriage and your relationship, long term, short term, whatever that is, transparency is so crucial, because if you don't have transparency, then you really don't have a great way to move forward. And I think that's something oftentimes I see lacking for a lot of people is the transparency.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So, I think it's important to recognize that as a crucial part of that.
for sure.
So I'd love to know, being that, you work with a lot of people on organizing and decluttering and things like that, have you seen a pattern between the physical clutter and the emotional spending that takes place? And what does that look like, when you've witnessed that?
So yeah, when people buy stuff they don't need, be it food, be it clothing, be it vacations, whatever it can be, there's always an emotional attachment to it. It's either, control, it's either to feel safe,
Mhm.
it's to feel needed, valued, respected. I mean, it's so much connected to why we buy things, um, usually unnecessarily, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably see that too, is people buying, another bigger TV or another couch for a room that they don't have room for, and I see stuff like that too, and I'm like, okay, why did you buy the second couch when the first couch was too big? Oh, well, we realized the first couch was too big, so we bought the second couch thinking, and then we didn't know what to do with the first couch. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so instead of planning and having an actual action plan of what you were going to do by measuring the room and filling out what size you needed, you just bought it because you had the money, or maybe you didn't, you just had a credit card that had the money.
Yeah.
Whatever the way you bought it, yeah, it's because they're trying to fill that void, whatever the void is in their life. um they're just that's what they do. They buy
Yeah.
more stuff, and I've had family members do that. They just buy stuff
Yeah.
because they don't know what else to do with their frustration, anger, overwhelm, whatever the emotion that is attached, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to touch back on, how you were referring to sometimes the things associate with things like respect or a showing of something. And, one of the things that I always noticed growing up is my grandma was in Germany during World War II,
Yeah.
and her house was wall to wall furniture.
Hmm.
And they didn't have anything growing up. And so she filled her home. That was a sense of showing, hey, I'm doing okay for myself. I've got things. And then I witnessed, my mom's kind of an in between transition of that. And then I'm more of I have minimal furniture everywhere. I keep it
Right.
very tight and very, very minimal.
Right.
And so I noticed the transitional between just the three different generations.
right.
have you seen that people either try and mimic what they grew up with, or do you find people that go to the extreme where they want to go and just completely downsize or completely upsize because they didn't have one or the other?
Absolutely, and especially, the older generation, because a lot of them had nothing. They grew up, and I mean, my parents were in that too. They
Mm.
grew up with very little. It was very hard, tough for them. Food, money, whatever, housing. It was very tough.
Yeah,
So, you grow up in that environment, and you either cling on to everything you have and don't let anything go, which is the sentimental attachment to it, or you just keep buying and buying and buying because now you have that money to buy the stuff that you didn't have growing up. So my parents were both like that. Well, actually, my dad was the extreme of a saver, saver, saver. My mom was a spender, spender, spender,
yeah.
because they both grew up with that same environment, but they saw it so differently.
Mm,
And it was funny, not funny, but funny to see how different they viewed that lifestyle and that
yeah.
way they grew up, and it's either one or the other for most cases. And my dad was extreme saver, I was extreme spender. So it was fun watching them, right? Because the arguments they would have, I'd be like, and,
Yeah,
and as I got older and started understanding it all, I totally get where they both were coming from. They
yeah.
both wanted to feel safe. My dad wanted to have money because he never had it. My mom wanted to
Mm,
buy things because she never had. She had hand-me-downs and hand-me-down because she was the, fifth of the five kids. So she got all the hand-me-downs. So she never had new anything,
yeah,
from beds to clothing to anything. It was leftover of everything.
yeah,
So it's sad to see, and I'm not making any fun of the situations, but I see the extreme of how they saw things and how it
yeah,
affected them and how it affected us growing up, because we saw the difference of how they believed the way the world should be, right? So,
yeah. Yeah, I think there's something to, be said on how we transition from what we experienced growing up. Either
right,
we start to mimic. So if we had parents that were extreme spenders, we may mimic that, or we may go to the complete opposite extreme where we don't ever spend anything and we're just, hoarding all our money because we're so nervous about what's going to happen. So I think it can be said either way. I just find it so interesting
right,
to witness how different it looks for everybody and the experiences people have and the connections they make with these things. So
right.
it's always just so fascinating to me.
Yeah, definitely it is. Yeah.
So, we talked a lot about organization and things like that. Tell me a little bit about what is the role of Feng Shui and what you do. Explain to people what exactly that means, because I think some of us probably have a little bit of an idea, but maybe don't truly understand what the concept is and just how that kind of plays into what you do.
Okay. So you're saying feng shui specifically.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So feng shui is all about the energy in your environment. To make it as simple as possible, that's what it is. So how your environment in feng shui, we believe our environment reflects our life, and our life reflects our environment, which means whatever you have that surrounds you in your immediate space, your home, your office, your car, the things around your home, it all affects us energetically. So when feng shui started, thousands of years ago, of course the world was very different then, but they could tell by where they chose to build their homes, how the things around them affected them. And even when you look at it, when you go to buy a new home, you're looking for X, Y, and Z to be around you. You don't want to live near a dump. You don't want to live near a
True.
highway, because energetically, that's not the energy you like, and it doesn't make you feel good. So you won't buy a home around that, right? You want parks, you want running water, you want trees, you want whatever the thing is that you want. But that's all energetically that you are attracting and pulling in, because that makes you feel comfortable and whatever
Mm,
that may be, right? So feng shui basically helps you set up your environment to complement the things that are working really well in your life. And that could be money, relationships, health, whatever. But the things that are not working for you, and that could be, you're struggling in school, you have your marriage is on the rocks, your money's not there, or whatever. It helps you balance those energies in many different ways, from colors to decluttering. And like I said at the beginning, decluttering is a huge part of feng shui, because the more stuff you have it doesn't equal happiness. It
Yeah.
doesn't equal being comfortable, feeling safe. It ends up being overwhelming, draining your finances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we do in feng shui is, when I do a consultation, it's basically helping you balance the energy
Mm.
and work on the areas that aren't working or not at the level you want them to, be it
Mm.
money, relationships, health, whatever it may be. Yeah. So that's how the connection of it is. And clutter
Awesome.
is a number one thing that I deal with from the very
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. In what you do, that would be the number one thing. But it's always interesting to know how energy kind of plays into, what we do and the spaces that we have and how it can promote different things to happen for us because we open ourselves up to more positive things versus
Right.
living in stressful or negative spaces. So I
Right.
do think there's something to be said about that.
Right. Because I mean, you have to think of it this way. How do you feel when you're and it doesn't have to be Martha Stewart organized or clean. I don't,
Yeah,
90% of people do not live like that. Okay. But I'm saying where you're comfortable and you can move around your furniture and you can open the door without it being stuck because you can't expand it because there's 15 bucks behind
exactly.
it. That's the difference I'm talking about. It's being comfortable, and whatever level of comfortable is for you, right? So your grandmother was comfortable with so much furniture.
Yeah.
The reality is she didn't need it, but that's what made her feel safe.
Yeah.
So you have to respect that, as well as giving her guidance to letting go, maybe the
Mhm.
one of the five couches she has. Maybe not all five, or maybe not four of the five, but even
Yeah.
helping her get rid of the one that she really doesn't have that much attachment to. And that's how you work with that, right?
Yeah. No, I,
Yeah.
I love that. And I think it's important to, look at small ways that you can start to tackle some of this because
Right.
if you find yourself in a lot more clutter than, someone else, your steps to taking that process very similar to managing your money as you take baby steps to start doing that because to try and take that all in one chunk is just overwhelming and it's stressful and it's emotional. So what is something that you might suggest as just, some easy, simple steps that someone could start if they wanted to start decluttering today? What is something that they could start doing, or, one or two tips that they could start to do?
Sure. The main thing I always say to clients when they're beginning is start small. You know, you don't have to do the whole kitchen. You can start with, one drawer and put a timer on for 15 minutes.
Nice.
And then if you have more time or you have more energy and you want to continue, awesome. That's the best thing. But if you don't, you still appreciate what you were able to accomplish.
Yeah.
Because I think most people think, well, my whole garage needs to be cleaned out. Okay, and that may
Yeah.
be true, but I never say, okay, we're going to just gut the whole thing and start all. No,
Yeah.
because we don't have that reality. Most people don't have the time or the the staff to do it with,
Yeah.
right? It's not a TV show where you have behind on the commercial break, everybody cleans it out, right? So start small, start with one container. And the timer is the key. When you have a timer on and you have 30 minutes, you make decisions a lot faster. It's proven. You'll make a decision
True.
much quicker than you're just like, okay, well, I'm going to just, open the container and I'm going to just, because then you'll read the letters and the pictures and you'll be memory lane over and over and over again. And next thing you know, it's 4 hours and you've done nothing. It,
Yeah.
it happens to a lot of people. And I deal with clients that get frustrated with that. So start small, set a timer, and be realistic with what you can do in that 10, 15, 30 minutes, whatever the time frame. I always say at least 20 minutes on average, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to ask yourself, and that Marie Kondo thing, does it bring you joy? And if
Yeah.
that doesn't relate to you and you're like, okay, that's corny, and no, I could never ask my sweater if it brought me joy. But you have to think of it, does it have value? And
Yeah.
value is value. It could be money value, but it could also be emotional value. It could be just, do you even wear the damn thing?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't even wear it, who are you keeping it for? The person you may be 10 years from now, the person that may want to wear that, like wedding dresses are a prime example. No, I have a daughter. She's never going to wear my wedding dress. No matter how much I beg her and wish that she would,
Yeah.
she is never going to wear my wedding dress. I got rid of it because
Yeah.
I realized I have one daughter. She's never going to wear it. What's the sense? I'm already done that. I'm never going to wear it again. So what's the point of having it? So you have to think of it things like that, really look at the things you have and how much value do they have and not
Yeah.
just monetary, of course, right? Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest, right over there is my wedding dress hanging up that I'm trying to sell and get rid of.
Right?
Because,
Yeah.
and I've been
Right.
trying to do it for like, I don't know, 10 years. So I'm about to
Right.
just donate it because at this
Donate
point
it.
I need it gone.
Right.
So it's funny that you brought that up, but I also like how you said about setting a timer. So for a while, my husband and I have struggled with cleaning our house because
Right.
we are so busy, we're so on the go, and I'm like, that's it. We've got to figure this out. So we have Monday and Thursdays are cleaning days, and we set a timer for no more than an hour that we will go and tackle. Most things were done in like 15, 20 minutes,
Wow. Yeah.
and it helped us so much because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't.
Right?
This
Because
is taking us
it's your
forever.
choice.
Yeah,
Well, if you know you're busy and you
yeah,
only have an hour on Mondays and Thursdays,
yeah,
then utilize that time. If that's
yeah,
all you have, that's all you have. And it's only you guys, so who cares who doesn't like what that you do and
yeah,
don't do in a day, right? So yeah, embrace it. And that's what I would say. Like if you only have 30 minutes, be realistic. You can't declutter a whole room in 30 minutes, but you could do a drawer or two, a
yeah,
kitchen cabinet, maybe a couple memory boxes. I mean, there's definitely things you could do in 30 minutes or even an hour.
yeah.
And,
I
and you have to
100%.
respect that, like, and be realistic, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's sometimes where we bring in a lot of feelings of guilt and shame is we try and punish ourselves for not doing all of the things. Like, I don't want to not clean my house, but at the same time, like I'm so freaking tired because I'm doing this and that and I'm on the go all the time. And it's sometimes you just gotta have a little grace with yourself and be like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out what's gonna work, and it's not perfect and it's not great, but it works.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important. And I tell you the one thing, and I think I shared this with you before, the one thing that really helped me with cleaning is that I use a box method when I clean because I was getting so distracted going into other rooms to put stuff away. And in my
Yep.
decluttering, I was like, this led from me being in the kitchen, and now I'm in the back bedroom doing God knows what because I got
So true,
sidetracked.
right? Oh my
And
God.
I'll
Yeah.
bounce between 5 different rooms. And I'm
Right.
like, how I was cleaning a drawer. It's just a
Right?
drawer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm in a closet. So I think there's
How
something
did
to
that
be
happen?
said with minimizing what you're working on too
Yes. Yeah,
when you're doing
absolutely.
that.
And can I give you one more tip?
Absolutely.
When you're doing the timer and you're picking one area,
Yeah.
having your decluttering kit ready. So having garbage bags, having a box for donations, or if it's going to be a box for keeping because the 30 minutes isn't going to give you time to reorganize it, but at least you can purge and declutter it.
Yeah.
So prepare for what you do think you're going to accomplish in that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is you're going to do. So even when you're cleaning, you're going to clean, like say in 1 hour, you're going to do your kitchen and your bathroom because those are usually the dirtiest spots. But maybe that is what you can accomplish in 1 hour. So you have your cleaning products ready. You have the vacuum, the mop, whatever you're going to do ready. You don't have it now. Your timer's on. You got to still go to the other side of the house to get the vacuum. And no, be prepared and then put the timer on and go.
Yeah.
That is the key to it working and not zigzagging. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. One more box for other rooms.
Yes. Yes.
So
That's
do
been my
not.
lifesaver.
The zigzag organizing stops when you have a box and you say, no, this doesn't belong here, but I'll just put it in this box, and then at the end of the timer, I'm going to take that box, I'm going to walk around, and I'm going to put it to wherever it belongs.
Yeah. Yeah. No more
So
squirrels.
yeah, yeah, and we all do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be focused,
You
right?
do,
Yeah,
you do. And it can be challenging some days. And I think,
absolutely. We're
having
human.
those boxes has really helped me as even someone who is very good at organizing things. Like I struggle with it. It's something that I
Of
have to be
course.
super mindful of.
Right.
So I love the tips that you gave. I love, they're so simple. They're not complicated. They're not overwhelming. They're very simple. And, I think the important message here is that, just creating awareness for yourself,
Right.
being aware of your spending and figuring out things that, as Marie Kondo would say, spark joy. I tell my husband a lot, let's go Marie Kondo this shit because we gotta figure this out.
I love that, right?
So, I say that a lot because right now, we are in decluttering and purging mode. And one of the things that I really encourage people to do is when you go through this process, find the things that if you want to make some quick cash, sell some of this stuff.
Yes,
Find things you want to donate, but also sell some stuff because this
absolutely.
is where you start to really free up some money and some space, and you can bring in the things that actually do bring you joy, and you can find ways to help, eliminate debt and put money towards savings and create emergency funds. I will tell you, if you are not a lover of garage sales, I will tell you that most garage sales I do are $1,000 plus. So
Wow,
if you
that's awesome.
want to make some cash, sell your stuff because that is a
Right?
great way to, really eliminate some of that.
And you have to think of it too, when you're organizing and decluttering, it doesn't cost you anything. You can get boxes from anywhere. And if you're buying stuff, you can usually have boxes from those things that
Amazon.
you purchased, right? Yeah, Amazon packages have their
Yeah.
own boxes,
Yeah.
right? So you don't have to buy a label maker. You can use a marker and write it on the box. Like,
Yep.
it doesn't have to cost you a thing to get organized. I reuse boxes. I cut them down for drawers, so I don't have to go even to the dollar store to buy an organizer for my pens, say, or whatever, the silverware, whatever. You don't have to spend money to get organized. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Yeah.
have to think of it that way. It doesn't cost you anything to get organized. You actually, like you said, selling your stuff, you actually make money.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I'm glad you touched on that because I think sometimes when we think we need to get organized, we need to go buy all the things to get
No,
organized. And while I love those things, and I have some of those things,
of
I
course.
think, you have to be smart about why you're buying those things. What
Right.
is the purpose? Is it really to just be cute because a TV show said, hey, this is cute? Or is
Right.
it something that's actually going to add value to your life because now you can see the cereal or you can see the items? That's really what you want to look at too, is what is the purpose behind what I'm doing?
Right.
I think that's something that we oftentimes forget to look at is the purpose behind why we do what we do.
Yes, and I think when you focus on the purpose, it does keep you more in check of what you're doing and what you're spending your money on too,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, guys, is now that we've kind of uncovered some of the hidden costs of clutter and how it impacts your space, your mindset, your finances, I really want to encourage you to take some action right away because this is going to be fresh on your mind. So this is a great time to really be purposeful in what you do. Start small. Like Trish said, start small, set a timer, get some boxes, have your cleaning products with you immediately. So you're not making the extra side trips like me, who I like to go all over the house. And now I have my little squirrel box that I keep everything in. But choose an area in your home to start decluttering today, even if it's a drawer. Doesn't matter. Just starting that habit really starts to shift that energy and really starts to create those habits where you want to repeat it. And if you're feeling inspired and want more tips on support in this particular journey, or you have questions, drop those in the comments and also share your progress. Trish, where can people find you if they have more questions specific to decluttering and getting organized? Where can they find you?
I have a Facebook group. It's called Magical Spaces Community. My company is called Magical Spaces. So you're welcome to join me there. Just what do you call it? Become a member, and you can. I do live videos like Cindy does every week. So there's lots of videos you can catch up on. I have organizing feng shui, and I'm going to eventually have the interior decorating ones.
Ooh,
And yeah, and you can always, send questions to Cindy, of course, on this live, but you can always post questions. And I'm doing a Q&A starting next week, and you're welcome to join that as well and ask questions, whatever you have. Yeah, I'll be more
perfect.
than happy to
And
help.
we'll have Trish comment on this post for you to get links to her group as well. But just
Thank you.
remember that we're all in this together. This is
Yeah.
just part of what we go through as being adults, is, getting our finances straight and getting our homes straight. I want to thank you all for joining today. Again, this was our first money talk, and I want to thank Trish so much for joining us today. But I
Yeah.
really loved this conversation because I think, like I said, decluttering is like my spirit animal, if that was something that could be said.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's some actionable steps and a fresh perspective that we can all take away from this. And again, huge thank you to Trish for joining us today. I feel like this was an amazing session. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I thought it was amazing.
I thought
Um,
it was amazing too. I loved it. So thank you, Cindy.
awesome,
I
awesome.
did really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, just remember, any small change can lead to big transformations. It's not just, needing to, basically eat the elephant in one bite. It's about taking
Right.
small pieces to really make this change. And
Right.
feel free to continue the conversation here in the group, share your thoughts, ask your questions, and let us know how your journey's going because Trisha is a member part of this group. So I'm sure she would love to hear how things are going for you. But I'm looking forward to hearing about your progress. And until next time, take care and keep moving towards your goals. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.